Hi, Daniel. So nice to meet you.
Hey, how are you guys doing? How's the weather up there? I mean, obviously in the video, you guys have the nice, beautiful fall colors that we don't. In Texas, we don't get that kind of thing.
Winter is long and coming here. It's
Hey.
usually here by now.
Yeah, it's been a nice warm fall.
Yeah, at least you guys had. We didn't even get a winter last year at all. It was cold for like 2 days, and then it was summer again. So literally.
You're in Dallas, right?
Yes, sir.
Texas?
Yes, sir.
Dallas.
Nice.
Well, I'm north. I'm in the burbs of Dallas, but.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, Daniel, I feel like we're old friends, even though this is the first time we're talking to you, just because of back and forth. And
Hey, you got to be a friendly person to be a good photographer, I suppose.
I guess I don't know. I've known a few that weren't, but
I'm sure. They're studio guys.
well, anyway, yes. So yeah, like we're here with Daniel. Hopefully, you've watched the video where we do a photo duel with Daniel. Daniel reached out to us and had an idea. And you can get more details in the other video, but basically I was kind of ranting in one of my videos about how I can't move all the way to Fuji. Daniel's a guy that's moved all the way to Fuji, and so he's like, hey, let's do a friendly little photo duel, compare the systems, specifically the 85mm range. So that means that he was shooting with a 56 1.2 on the Fuji X-T2 while we were shooting with the 85 1.2 version 2 on the Canon system. So that was a great duel. We had fun, and
Yeah, thanks for doing it. And thanks for reaching out.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you guys are. I've enjoyed the videos and everything so far. So it makes it fun when other people are willing to collaborate. So.
Yeah, and I mean, for us, it helps us grow. That's one of the reasons we like to do it so much. We meet cool people. We get to, well, a lot of times we're dueling each other, but either way, I think we get better, so it's fun.
Absolutely.
And so since we did the video, we also wanted to get a third-party judge. We were lucky enough to get Lee from Zed Pro Media interested in doing it. He's he's been through every system, and right now he's a Fuji guy also. So that was great to get his perspective. We're going to show you his video that he pre-recorded his judging of our. We both chose 6 from that shoot. If you haven't seen that video, I would encourage you to go watch that first and then pause this one, come back, and then it'll give you a little more context if you'd like. Yeah, so we're just gonna play. We've already watched it, but we're gonna let you watch Lee's review of our photos and his judging. Anything else you want to say, Daniel, before we kick it over to Lee?
I just, thank you guys for taking the challenge, I guess, the duel. I know the verbiage in there was more of a challenge, but it was more, I guess, truthfully told, just a comparison, I guess, between the two, just because I know a lot of people are looking for that portrait lens. So for, coming from Canon, it had the 85mm 1.2. I guess the biggest thing was the autofocus, and I mean, you guys can probably attest. I don't know if you're using the version 1 or version 2 of that 85mm, but
2.
What is it, 2? So the autofocus by comparison with the 56 is very, very slow, and because of the super shallow depth of field, the autofocus, I guess, accuracy or I always found that I was always second guessing whether or not I actually had it in focus or not. And for me, it was switching over to Fuji just to have, I guess, the better consistency with autofocus and being confident that it was actually in focus when it said it was. And then just the bulk and the weight was the other thing, like shooting an entire day or shooting a wedding or doing a couple of different shoots back to back, and then your shoulders tired and your hands tired from holding 6 pounds in a grip all day long because that lens is so heavy. That was just the biggest thing with switching over, because the camera is literally half as big and half as heavy. So I think that was probably more of it. And outside of just the shallow depth of field, I've been completely satisfied with the image quality being what I would expect it to be.
Yeah. Well, and those are great points, and I also think it's worth mentioning that this is, like Daniel's saying, this is as much as about just showing you some interesting photos from the different systems and lenses. as it is competing. But I mean, a more fair comparison, obviously, being the same lighting conditions with the same model. A lot of people pointed that out in the comments. Yeah, obviously, of course.
Of course.
We're not arguing that. This just might give you a different perspective. It's interesting. I know a lot of people are having to make those decisions now that the X-T2 has just done so well in the market. So this is just more ammunition in your decision-making process. And I don't think any of us are trying to persuade anybody to go one way or another, just because we all like both systems for different reasons.
Yeah.
So we're going to show you Lee's video now and let you watch his thoughts and feedback on these photos, and then we'll catch you on the flip.
Hey guys, if you don't know who I am, my name is Lee Zavitz, and I run the YouTube channel ZebPro Media, and that's actually also the name of my business. I started my business 3 years ago, and I've been shooting professionally now for about 5 to 6 years. My history goes back a little bit further. I started doing photography, shooting on film, developing in the darkroom back in high school and stuff like that. I didn't really take photography crazy serious until I got my first DSLR. That's when things took off, and everything's been awesome ever since, especially being able to run my own business and do what I love. Andrew reached out to me and asked me if I'd like to judge this big photo op gunslinging shoot contest against the Canon 6D versus the Fuji X-T2, but using the 85mm f1.2 on the Canon and the 56mm f1.2 on the Fuji. Obviously, there's going to be some compression stuff and some bokeh stuff going on between the two, and I'm going to talk a bit about that in the shots, but we just want to see what you can get out of these cameras if you decide to switch to Fuji like I did. I actually own the Canon 6D alongside with my 5D Mark II back in the day, and great camera, great sensor, awesome image quality. It was pretty similar to the 5D Mark II as far as image quality. I've made the switch to the X-T2. Doesn't mean you have to, and maybe with these pictures you can kind of see whether you want to make that choice or not. So I'm going to fire up Lightroom, I'm going to stop talking, and let's see what we got. Alright, so before I critique these photos, I just want to let you know I don't know anything. I don't know who took what photo. I don't know how they were taken. I don't know where they were taken. I don't really know anything. All I know is that the 6D has the 85mm f1.2, and the Fuji has the 56mm f1.2. And I did ask Andrew ahead of time if they were edited, because I noticed that the Canon shots were a lot more saturated, and I need to take that out of the equation because I'm going to tend to lean towards that because I like the colors a lot more. But, if they were edited the same way on the Fuji, you can get the same kind of result. So I got to take that out of the equation. I'm just going to judge sharpness, framing, posing, and, the use of bokeh and stuff like that. So let's jump into this first image here. It was taken with the Fuji 56mm at f1.2. I love the framing of this shot. I like how this bench is kind of cutting her out. I'm pretty sure this is a bench. Yeah, I think this is the bench legs here. But I love the foreground bokeh, as well as the bokeh balls in the background. Obviously, if this was taken with a full frame sensor, these bokeh balls would be a lot bigger or blurred out a lot more. But I really love this shot. I love the pose. It's very casual. It's candid. I really like it. I think I'm going to give this shot a 4 out of 5. Okay, I really love this pose. For some reason, it feels like there's some action going on, like she maybe have leaned into the shot. It's less candid. Obviously, it's more of like a classic portrait style shot, but yeah, this shot was at f2. So even at f2, you've got some crazy bokeh here, and you can see the thin blade of what's in focus just on the bench here. So that's crazy. It's a nice shot, nice and sharp. You move in here on the eyes, yeah. Again, the colors are a lot better coming off this Canon just because of the way it was edited. I shouldn't say coming off, I should say the way that it was edited, but a lot of people are going to probably tend to lean towards the Canon just because of that. But I also feel like these images were taken at a better time of day, and that the lighting is a lot nicer in all of these shots coming off the Canon as well. So I'm going to give this shot a 4 as well. Moving on to the next shot. Okay, so I had a hard time with this image because I really like how it's framed up, and I really love the shot. And, it's decently sharp. It's not 100% perfect on her eyes here. But the thing that distracts me is this background here, and I guess this was probably a fence. and I don't necessarily love how the 56 millimeters rendering out that fence. I know for sure that if you were using a full frame camera with the 85 millimeter lens, that the compression and the way that this fence would be rendered out would be nice and soft, and you wouldn't have these grid lines. And that's not necessarily something that I love in this photo. So because of that, the pose is nice, the framing's nice and everything. Even the lighting's pretty nice coming down her face here. But because of this fence, it's kind of distracting. I think I'm only going to give it a 3. Okay, so looking at this next shot from the Canon, this time shooting wide open at f1.2. I remember this lens having a ton of chromatic aberration when I used it before at f1.2, and yeah, you can see it around the cheek here. You know what? I don't even know if this is 100% in focus, to be honest. It's a nice shot. It's framed up nice. You could even move her off to the side a little bit more to give her equal space between this opening here and kind of give you your rule of thirds and stuff like that. But it's a decent shot. It's interesting. I like the use of the lighting here. And, you know, that's one of the things I was talking about, how the Canon shots were kind of in a nicer time of day when the lighting was, you know, more like golden hour and softer and stuff like that. And, you know, this is a nice shot. Not quite in focus, you know, from what I would like to see. I'm going to give this one a 3 as well. Moving on to the next shot. Again, this is shot wide open at f1.2. I like the pose. It's different. Can't tell if that's 100% in focus or not. I think it's because of how far away he is. That's just the way it looks. If I was editing this photo, I might have edited out these orange pylons. But yeah, the background blur is nice. I think I might have chose a different setting for this. It's a decent shot. I think I'm only going to give it a 3 though. Don't necessarily... It's nothing special. It's kind of an average shot. Don't hate me for saying that. But let's move on. I really love this shot. My only thing I would say about this shot is that I might have shot it... Yeah, you shot it at f1.2. I would have shot this maybe at 2.8 and then get the nose in focus as well as this eye and maybe, you know, this side of the cheek and the mouth. I don't know if that was an artistic choice. He chose just to focus on the eye. But for me, when I'm getting a side profile like that, I'd probably want to get that whole side of the face in focus. But the background's just blowing out. That's the kind of advantage you get with the 85mm at f1.2 on a full frame camera. I'm going to give this a 3 as well. And move on. This is a great shot. This is a really beautiful shot. Nice use of light coming in here. The eyes are nice and sharp and in focus. I don't know if I necessarily love the green flowers coming in here in the foreground. It's kind of weird, but nice shot. Maybe could have framed it up a little bit better and move her off to her left a little bit more just so she's in the center of the shot. You could also crop it too. But pretty decent. Some weird stuff going on down here, though. Look on her shirt. It's not even chromatic aberration. It's like the lens is out of alignment or something. That's kind of weird. Anyway, it's a decent shot overall. I think that's worth a 3 as well. As you can tell, I don't want to be too much of a jerk and give a 2. So I'm gonna stick at a 3 because to get a 2 or a 1, the shot would have to be pretty crappy. So when I'm saying 3, it's still a good shot. It's not a bad shot. Moving on here, this is probably my favorite shot out of most of the shots taken. I really love the use of the sunlight coming in here. This is actually the image I noticed that these shots must have been edited because of the way that there's kind of like this blue haze over top of the shadows. Again, this shot, I don't know if I would have done it wide open at f1.2 because you start to lose this focus on the nose and the edge of the mouth and stuff like that. Some weird chromatic aberration here and green fringing around her forehead. But that's what you get at f1.2 on that lens. And, you know, that's just part of the charm of that lens. You got to be careful sometimes. And it's a great shot overall, though. I would give that a 4 just because of how it's shot, the way the lighting is. The pose, the framing, I like, you know, these trees kind of coming in here like that. And then obviously the fall off on her left shoulder here. So I'm going to give that a 4. Move on to the next one here. So it looks like all these Fuji shots were shot wide open at f1.2, and you know, they're nice and sharp. This is definitely nice and sharp here. The hair is kind of getting caught in this tree branch, but for some reason I kind of like that. I don't know why. It doesn't really make the photo better, but it's just something interesting. Obviously you have a bunch of dead space over here on the left. I don't hate it. I also don't love it. You get the chance to see some more of the bokeh from that lens, and you know, it's not bad. It's a decent shot. I'm probably just gonna give this a 3. I don't really think it's nothing super special. I don't know how much time they had to shoot these images, if there was kind of a time restraint on them or not, but I might have set it up a little differently. Overall, it's not bad. I'm gonna give it a 3 because I like the lighting, and the pose is nice. Yeah, so this is what I'm saying about the Canon and the colors and the contrast and the way it's edited. This is kind of how I would like to see my images edited, so I gotta kind of take that out of the equation. It's a really nice shot as well. Nice pose. Eyes are nice and in focus. Background again, blown out real nice. It's a classic portrait. I'm debating on giving this a 4. I like the lighting, but I don't know if I want to give it a 4 because I like the color tones and stuff like that. I got to take that out of the equation. I think I'm gonna give it a 4. Okay, so this is probably my favorite Fuji shot out of all the shots. This is, again, we're taking it at f1.2, but now we have a nicer framed up shot. I like the pose. I like how she's looking off. I like how she's also kind of leaning into the shot. It's nice and sharp. I'm picky with blemishes and stuff. I might have cleaned this area up here, but nice overall shot. The fence doesn't seem too distracting to me in this one as it did in the other shot back here. I didn't really like this grid pattern, but I don't mind the grid on this because it's more obvious what it is. I think for this shot, I'm probably going to give it a 5 because this is my favorite Fuji shot, and it deserves a 5. Alright, so this last shot is definitely my favorite Canon shot, and I'm going to give it a 5 right off the bat just because of the background choice. This is a really awesome background, and again, I can't judge it based off the color, but if you were to judge based off colors alone, you know, the Canon wins hands down. And again, it's tough to really judge these shots because to get a real judgment, you'd have to go and take the same lens, take the same shot on the same subject with the same lighting and the same settings in order to really see what these cameras can do. And again, you'd have to edit it the same way in order for them to be judged the same way. So I love this. I love the like glisten in her eyes. It's nice and sharp. This might have had some sharpening added in editing, but it still looks great. I just love this whole image. The bokeh looks awesome, and yeah, that deserves a 5. So hopefully I didn't offend any of the photographers in this video. I didn't want to be mean. I didn't give anyone below a 3 because they're all great shots, and it's tough to judge when they're not edited the same way and the same model with the same lighting and stuff like that. But great shots, great images. Obviously, Andrew, it's up to you to decide what you want. It's either the sharpness and awesome autofocus of the Fuji or massive bokeh and blown out backgrounds with a full frame sensor. I know you don't really want to leave that 85mm behind, but Fuji does have the 90mm f2, and it's pretty good. I don't know if you've tried that lens yet or not. It's probably going to be my next portrait lens. But for now, I've been using the 50 to 140mm, and it does a pretty good job. I just don't love lugging around a telephoto lens. That's half the reason why I moved to Fuji, because I like the size. Yeah, hopefully I didn't offend anyone, and my judgment was fair. I'm not going to tally up these stars. You can do that in the video at the end. Anyway, yeah, thanks for having me judge these images, and if you want to check out my stuff, my YouTube channel, I'm pretty sure Andrew will put it in the link, but it's Zeb Pro Media. Check out my Flickr account, Zeb Pro Media. You can see a lot of images I've taken with the Fuji X-T2 as well as the X Pro 2. And you can check out some of my portraits I've done there. And yeah, thanks for watching and listening to me talk. So see you later.
So thanks, Lee. That was awesome. I think
Yeah,
we all learned a lot. Please follow Lee and Zeb Pro Media if you're not now. Both Daniel and us have watched him for a while. Great videos. He's especially if you like Fuji, but even if you don't. he's a great guy. So let's talk about lessons learned. We've got a few things, I think, that were super cool to hear. I think Lee's been around longer than us, so we have a lot to learn from him. But Daniel, do you want to go first? You want us to? You have a preference?
There's so much to learn from other people that have been in the industry a little bit longer, doing, you know, the day in, day out as a full-time photographer longer than we have, obviously. So there's, you know, there's a huge upside there to learn from someone like that. So, you know, Lee's been fantastic. I like the little reviews that he puts out. He pointed out color differences and stuff like that. So that was part of the challenge that we didn't really line up, I guess, when we were initially planning this out. We didn't plan the same time of day or the same kind of lighting conditions. So those are obviously going to be a little bit different. I mean, those differences aside, you can still see the characteristics of the lens. You know how it works. It still shows and showcases those kind of things, which is what I think ultimately we were going for. So.
Yeah,
definitely. You know, one thing I really liked that he talked about with that 85 1.22, he talked about the characteristic chromatic aberration, and that's just not something I'd compared or thought a whole lot about. And certainly hadn't, because these photos, I think that the only thing that we edited was color, really. And some blemishes, yeah. But you know, that was a great point, and that lens wide open does struggle with that. And I don't think it's definitely those Fuji lenses, I don't think struggles as much with it. So that was a valid point. And I think that there are times, well, you were shooting, most of those shots are actually Danae's. So, you know, what did you learn, Danae?
That I was, I think, what did I have it at? Like 1 point?
Well, you had it 1.2 for a lot of really close-up shots.
Yeah, and he made a good point that was a little too much to...
Front to back.
Yeah, so, and we kind of caught that in the post, looking at him.
Oh, yeah, we threw away a lot of pictures that had both eyes when one was...
Yeah. But,
yeah, just
yeah, we liked it with the side profile. We kind of liked that the focus was on just that one eye. So there were some times that we felt like it was good, but I guess we were just trying so hard to get that bokeh.
But I think that
I mean, that's part of it, I guess, with that lens. That because it is so shallow, that some people absolutely love that, and it has more of an artistic feel, I think. From that point of view, because if you do get one eye in, you start to see fall off right at the bridge of the nose, and then it goes out. Where the Fuji, you have more, if you're, especially for the same distance, because you're working with the same field of view, if you're at the same working distance between you and your subject, the Fuji is still going to have more of the bridge, and then this eye isn't going to be completely gone with the, you know, like it would be with the Canon. So you lose some of that artistic feel, I guess, which is some of the magic in that lens, honestly. So, I mean, that's subjective, obviously, whether you like that or not. And if you're going for something like that, there's probably just as many people out there that are going to say, hey, I prefer that or prefer the ability to do that than not have the ability to do it. So.
Yeah.
But I think it comes down to intent, though. It should be a decision, not just this lens has crazy good bokeh, so let's just wide open and only shoot at 1.2 regardless of.
Yeah.
I mean, it should, and keep in mind both that, but also the chromatic aberration that you're going to get. So if there's a lot of backlighting, you know, maybe tone it down a little bit. The other thing, he didn't mention this a lot, but I do think that's important to note, is that 85 is just not the sharpest lens in the world, especially compared to a lot of these Fuji lenses. Well, cool. I think the only other thing I wanted to mention was that Lee was really worried about hurting our feelings, and of course he didn't. It was great, good feedback, fair review, and just excellent. Any last thoughts from you, Daniel, though? I think.
I guess as far as final thoughts, I mean, as you mentioned, I know Lee was kind of worried about, you know, hurting our feelings. I mean, constructive criticism is always a blessing, to have other people with a different mindset, a different opinion about your work to be able to grade and judge it. And so, you know, I always look at it as a learning experience. I don't take anything personally.
Well, guys, I think that's it for now. It's been an awesome photo duel. This has been our favorite one yet by far. Thanks, Daniel, for for doing this with us, and we ought to do this again sometime if you're ever up for it. I know you're a busy
Absolutely.
guy.
Anytime, man. Anytime.
Yeah, and your knowledge and skill also has been great. We've learned a lot from Daniel, so not just from what footage you've seen, but in our conversations with him on the side. So, as always, thanks for watching, everybody. And if anybody else wants to do a photo duel sometime, have an idea for it, let us know. We're always up for it. So, thanks.
Thanks again, Daniel. Thanks, Lee.
Thanks, Daniel.
We'll
Thanks,
see
Lee.
ya.
We'll see you.